concrete walkway that will be built to withstand a 100-year storm. We do have, at this point in time, permits from the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers, and through Congressman Courtney's office, we're negotiating with Amtrak for their share of the rock revetment there, and for the flagman and the track safety personnel that will be necessary to be employed on the tracks, because we're working in such a close proximity to the electrical wires and to the traveling trains that may be there. So we expect those negotiations to be finished rather shortly. We had Parsons Brinkerhoff, which is a design firm and applied coastal research, design with Bill and our team this new fix. I think they've done a very good job in designing that. We then put this out to bid. We got 12 bids, I believe, February 21st. Those bids were open on a Friday. And we had 12 bids ranging from the low bid of $4,388,000 to $8,200,000. So we made sure that the low bidder was qualified. Met with the building committee this week, and the low bidder is qualified, happens to be a town business, which I think is wonderful. They have done some work for the town in the past, so we have a history with them, and we know how to work with them, and we feel they're very capable of doing this work. So that bid did come in under budget. We're asking tonight, let me just add up where that, I told you about the two insurance settlements that we got. The other money is going to come from the lawsuit settlement that we did. The lawsuit was brought forth before my time, but when one of the first year that I came in, we were able to settle that lawsuit for $1,600,000, which was for the faulty design and for the construction oversight. Out of that, there were $130,000 of expenses between retainages to the construction company and et cetera that we had to pay back. So there's roughly $1,470,000 that we have left from that funding. Add that to the 1.7 from Irene and the 1.1 from Sandy, and that equals the $442,779. We actually had an additional STEEP grant that was given to us of $500,000. We applied for the STEEP grant specifically for the rebuilding of the boardwalk because we thought we might need the money. You may recall that STEEP, which stands for Small Town Economic Assistance Program, was the program that we've used to fund and rebuild our downtown Main Street. That was many of the funds there, and also part of the initial funding for the hole-in-the-wall parking lot has come from STEEP. So we have that money, the $500,000 STEEP grant, has already been appropriated. It's been through this process, the two boards and the town meeting, and that was appropriated, so we don't need to appropriate it again. So you add the 500 to the 442,779, and you have the available funding for this project of $4,942,778.80. Now, we all know that we've had problems with this. It is my belief that we will do this the last time. It will be done right. As I said, it's done to 100-year storm protection. It is a project that met with great success, and they averaged approximately 60,000 to 80,000 trips per year of people that would walk back and forth to that on that boardwalk. And we think, or I think, that the economic benefit in association with the rebuilt downtown and the new beach, and I've been passing around, I don't know if you've all seen those photos that I passed around of those, of the size of the beach that has been built there, and you may take particular note to that groin on the left side of the beach, which has two purposes down by the railroad bridge. There are steel panels down into that, so it will begin to capture the sand as it rotates around and collect up against that groin, and it'll have the effect of rebuilding a larger beach as it backs up all the way through there. The second effect is it will keep that silt and sediment from settling in to the expanded portion of the channel, which we feel is going to be a benefit to the Niantic River. We go from 45 feet wide from the old bridge to 100 feet wide under the current bridge, and 11 feet in vertical clearance to 15 feet. So more boats and things can go back and forth. So As part of this project, the town put expansion in the Cheney Park area where we now have 130 parking spaces to support that side of the entryway there, which is down in here. We built that parking lot there, so we have increased parking there, and we have park and rec presence. We're also proposing putting some dinghy docks right here along this area here, and some moorings so that we can begin to reverse the flow. When our boats, there's approximately 2,000 boats every summer that come inside that bridge, and a lot of them like to go over to Block Island and have lunch and come back. So what we hope the opportunity is, now that we have this expanded channel, we can bring those folks from that side over to here and spend money economically down here. And it would be very nice if this boardwalk were complete all the way down 1.1 mile of concrete paved boardwalk, and that way we could have a circle and they could come through downtown and access their boat again. So I believe I've hit all the major points to this, but I'd be happy to answer any question, Mr. Moderator, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. First Selectman. Mr. Rando.
That was a good presentation, Mr. Freak.
Thank you, Mr. Randall.
Do we have
You have to speak into the mic. Mr.
the man that's gonna get the contract here tonight, or any of his people?
I believe I did see Mr. Weiss.
Could he come forward?
Or Mr. Shear is here to answer any questions, and Mr. Weiss?
Well, the question I would like to ask Mr. Weeks, has he ever built one of these before?
How you doing? Mr. Weech has a question.
Through the
for you.
moderator, I will like to ask you a question. Have you ever built one of these before?
I've done plenty of.
Mr. Weech, you have to go to the podium and give your name and address, please.
How you doing?
Dave Waddington says you're a pretty good man.
How you doing? Mel Weiss.
Speak to the microphone, please, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Mel Weiss. I live at 50 Quarry Dock Road, Niantic, Connecticut. What was the question?
Have you built one of these before, this size of this project?
Okay, no, I have
You
not.
have to speak into
Okay,
the
sorry.
mic, Mr. Weech.
No, I have not built a project as 3,000 linear feet of continuous boardwalk like this project here, but I have installed many times, numerous occasions, PZ type sheet piling and pile cap and sidewalk installation. If you look at this project, it's a continuous project. Once you get through the first several hundred feet, it's the repetitive measure of building and reconstructing the same type of installation all the way through.
Sir, I've been looking at this project since the day it was brought to the Board of Selectmen. I sat on the board when it came forward. And I said it couldn't be built for what they bid it on that time. Now, these steel pilings that we're gonna drive into the sand, what's gonna stop them from corroding?
Mr. Shear, you want to take that? It's always better to have an engineer than a fish guy talk about that stuff.
They will corrode over time. You want me to get specific?
Yes, I do, sir.
They've done testing on these, and in the worst-case scenario, down south, they estimate that you'll lose half the steel in, I believe it was 57 years. So they expect that.
This is in salt water?
This is in salt water in warm tropical conditions, which you get more corrosion when it's warmer. So up here, we would have an extended life, and that's half the steel. So we're estimating up 70, 80, 90 years. And it's the same lifespan as the Amtrak side. Now, there are ways too, once these get pockets of corrosion, to go in and spot fix, and/or, in 100 years, you're probably gonna have to do something a little bit bigger, but, so that's my answer.
Are these pilings gonna be coated with anything, epoxy coating or anything?
They're not gonna be. We looked into epoxy coating. If you put epoxy coating on the outside, the sand and the rocks moving around would remove the epoxy coating within a year. So it's not cost effective to put it on the outside.
Thank you. You probably have to come back up, but it's all right. So when we get this project going, are we gonna have inspectors on the job every day that it's, I think you should probably stay up here,
Stay right
because I got quite a few questions.
Parsons Brinkerhoff, the main design firm, will have a full-time permanent inspector on the job as our representative.
Okay. Okay, how about warranty bonds? What are we gonna get for a bond on this job?
Once we award the contract, we get a full 100% of the cost of the project, payment and performance bond. The contractor is required to have $10 million worth of insurance. Our design firm is also required to have $10 million worth of insurance that must be maintained for 7 years.
7 years? Well, how long will we hold the bond?
The design firm, it's their professional liability, that has to remain in force for 7 years. The payment and performance bond is only maintained as long as the project is ongoing.
Now, I don't know if a lot of you people sitting here have known much about the boardwalk, but I've been involved in this boardwalk for quite a few years. When this came to the Board of Selectmen, my first question was to Mr. Pappas and I forgot who the gentleman with him was, but if we build this boardwalk, who was gonna maintain it and take care of it? Because I don't think it should be a taxpayer's job to maintain it, excuse me, if we build it. Well, I was told that East Lyme Trust was gonna maintain it, which it didn't work out too good. So the bid came in, I think, the resolution came in when we put it up for vote, 5,300 feet of boards, 18 feet high, 14 foot wide, lighted because so we could drive an ambulance or something down there in case somebody had a heart attack or got sick. And I said you couldn't build it for that and build it right. But everybody told me I didn't know what I was talking about. Now, let me go back one step here. We knew that Amtrak was gonna move those tracks and build a new bridge. We knew that. We didn't know when it was gonna be done, but we knew it was gonna be done. I said, well, geez, we should wait till after Amtrak does their work, because what's gonna happen, they're gonna have to tear that out. And I was told, oh no, they're just gonna have to tear a little bit out. They almost tore it almost way back to hole in the wall, almost, I guess. And the boards were tore down. So we built it. Mr. Frazier had it built. And as they built it, I got a letter in here from Breyer Construction that says, as the boardwalk was being built, what they had already built was falling apart. Okay? So if the taxpayers are paying for this, I don't care if you got a grant, grants don't come out of the sky, and there's no money tree. It's paid by the taxpayers of this country now, because it's federal money and state money. So we started out supposedly at 3.8 million. Well, Amtrak is subsidized by the taxpayers. They just got 1.5 billion from the government. And when we're done here, ladies and gentlemen, this boardwalk is going to cost the taxpayers of this country over $20 million. You figure it out. What we've spent and what we're going to spend. And I have the bid thing here somewhere. I don't know what I did with it. I got so many papers, but anywhere from 4 million to 8 million. We took the low bid last time, and it didn't work out too good. Now, there's got to be a reason why there's such a spread in these bids, 4 million to 8 million. There's got to be a reason. And I had a gentleman in my shop a couple weeks ago from Kimbrough, and they told me they would not bid on this the way the specs were written up. He didn't exactly tell me why. He was supposed to get back to me, and I haven't heard from him. But I do not think that we should spend any more money on this boardwalk. When they change it from wood and then they put in the dust for the walkway, and I bitched about the dust, one of the gentlemen told me, well, when it rains, this dirt will hard up like concrete. Well, when it rained, we had all pock marks in it, and it didn't get hard, just washed away. So I'm against this 100% because I think it's a waste on the taxpayers' money. We can't afford it. And then, after we're gonna build it, we're gonna have to maintain it. And it's still gonna cost us money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rando. Would anyone else like to be heard? Mr. Taylor?
I think Mr. Rando's correct when we talk about the past. The past construction had a lot of problems. It became the burden of the town when it wasn't originally going to be the town, and we kind of inherited it from a nonprofit. And those problems, we ended up having a boardwalk, and we had to get out of that problem and solve that problem. We were very lucky that Amtrak came through and decided that they were going to replace the bridge, and they had their plans. The town said we didn't like their plans, and that was town personnel and such. We were hopeful of getting a groin going out. We were hoping of getting a bigger bridge. We were hoping that they would do more. And they said we already had our plans done. We really can't change all of these things. And so what did the town of East Lyme do? We have a long history of doing some good things once in a while. The town engineering got together and they put together a plan, and then we got in touch with Amtrak and we said, well, we've got some plans already drawn up. We think we could solve some of these problems. And they said, fine, come on down. So our engineers here in this town went to Philadelphia, met with Amtrak, and Amtrak accepted a lot of that. They didn't accept everything we want, but we certainly got a lot more than we've gotten. And of the 1.1 boardwalk, 0.5 of a mile was replaced by them, and it was very well done, if any of you have walked it. We still had the rest left, and we sued the contractor. We collected from him. We collected from 2 different storms. So we accumulated a great deal of money so that we can now do the rest of the 0.6 of a mile with money that did not come from property taxes from the town of East Lyme residents at all. It comes from money that is federal, some of it is state grants, and some of it is just insurance companies paying for faulty performance. Anytime we get money back from the federal government, because we all pay a lot of taxes to the federal government, and when we get it back into the state of Connecticut, it's wonderful, because it's going to everybody else. It's nice that we're getting a little bit of it back here, particularly to solve a problem. I think that this was an item that was handled extremely well by this administration and by town employees. They did a great job putting this whole thing together, and it's cost the town basically nothing. We may do a little bit of supervision here and there, but it's covered in the regular operations of a lot of the personnel in their budget. So I just think that this is an exemplary performance by town personnel, and to think of not passing this when it doesn't cost you anything, I can't conceive of why anybody would vote against it. It's been a positive already. East Lyme, the town of Niantic, is already starting to come back. Some of the other money helped improve the downtown, but this will really start to make the town blossom even more than it is. And I can't conceive of anybody voting against this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Ms. Rack?
Karen Rack, 27 Black Point Road. Through you, Mr. Moderator, I've heard time and time again that we've had an economic benefit to the town, in terms of number of people, but I'm kind of a numbers person, so I would like to know, through you, Mr. Moderator, if I can receive a quantitative number, meaning a dollar amount, that has come into the town in terms of reducing the overall town expenditures and taxes.
Would anyone like to answer Ms. Reck's question? Mr. First Selectman?
I think the only way to quantify that, Ms. Rack, would be to say that the businesses that may expand along Main Street, the one I can think of off the top of my head is a wonderful new candy shop, an ice cream shop. They have built since the boardwalk was done, and then they've since expanded since the boardwalk is done. So that means that there's job creation. That means that there are property taxes in terms of real estate, and then property taxes in terms of fixtures and furniture that are going along there. And I think if they're doing well, that means that more people are coming downtown, and more people coming downtown, perhaps they spend money somewhere else. And it's said that tourism dollars, $1 is spent 28 times throughout the community. And I heard that. I don't know if that's quite true, but it seems to make sense that people spread their money around as they come to the boardwalk from here up through Flanders. So while I can't give you any quantitative numbers based on that, I think that's just one good example of the effect that the downtown renovation and I think the entrance to the boardwalk has had. Stay here?
Yep. So with the addition of the one particular business that you spoke of, what was the increase in the grand list due to that expansion? I'm looking for numbers. I'm sorry.
You know, again, I'd offer you the same opportunity I did the other gentleman with regard to detail. I'd be happy to sit down and try to go over what that property was assessed at prior, what that new property assessment is, and then what the, that's, you know, public information in the assessor's office. I'd be happy to give you that one, and we could probably look up and down Main Street to see what we can do to find any more examples that might help. But I just think sometimes you do things because it's the right thing to do. And this is a recreational opportunity that keeps us all happy and healthy walking along the Sound. I haven't really seen anybody not smile when they walk on the boardwalk. And I'm not a runner, and the reason I'm not a runner is because I never see any of them smile. But I know I've been on the boardwalk and I see everybody smile. And I think that that's a good economic opportunity because it brings people here to the fan favorite town. And I think that's what we need to do.
Thank you for your answer, and while that may sound good, you know, as a feel-good measure, but we're talking about an expenditure. And I need quantitative evidence of economic benefit, and I don't have that, so I do not believe that we should move forward and spend any more dollars. I also do have a problem in that often when we move with projects, they're very clearly spelled out, and we've had a lot of changes in not just the boardwalk, but other projects. So I don't have a tremendous amount of trust, and that's due to actual experience that things won't change again. And through you, Mr. Moderator, I heard that there will be a new line item within the budget for maintenance. Will that go away once there is the completion of the boardwalk, or will we be having a yearly budget line item for maintenance of the boardwalk? And how will that be offset by the revenue stream through Parks and Recreation?
Mr. First Selectman?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The maintenance line would be in the Park and Recreation budget. The seasonal part-time help also will be a separate line in the Park and Recreation budget. And those folks would be responsible for emptying the garbage along there, taking care of, you know, the seagulls have found that's a wonderful opportunity on the concrete to help them open their clamshells. So we're going to have to do something with that. But we do have monitors down there as they enter Cheney Park. We'll have monitors up and down the boardwalk, and they'll take care of that as far as maintenance. We did get a new beach groomer, a heavier beach groomer, to manage the extended beach that's happening. I think the beach that we have there is at least 3 to 4 times the size of the beach we have there. What we've been able to do with beach groomers over the last few years in a way to offset the cost to the taxpayer is to rent out those beach groomers to private beach association and get rental fees and do their private beaches. It helps them because they don't have the wherewithal to do that, and it generates some money from the town. That's managed by our Park and Rec director. So we'll have that opportunity to maintain it that way. But in answer to your direct question, those line items would be maintenance under Park and Rec and the part-time seasonal employees. the funding from the revenue from the park permit fee, which was up significantly, goes back into the general fund.
So it won't be used to offset the cost of the boardwalk?
Well, when revenues come into the general fund, what happens is that means that's less that property taxpayers have to pony up as part of their tax obligation. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Heck. Thank you, Mr. First Selectman, and we runners are always smiling, Mr. First Selectman.
Pardon me, Mr. Moderator.
Would anyone else like to be heard? Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Ludwig Osfeld, 112 Dean Road. I was the carpenter foreman on the original wood part of the boardwalk, and I also was a foreman for a company called Blakesley when we did the State Pier in New London. And the reason why I'm up here is because when I did the State Pier, half of the State Pier was done by Chanbro, half of the State Pier was done by my company, Blakesley. And at the end of our project, when we did the second half, because the ship's coming in through the turbulence of their propellers, there was a lot of degradation underneath the half of the State Pier that was being used all the time. And we had to come back and we had to put in these special devices called grout bags, which reinforced all the riprap underneath. So the reason why I'm bringing up this topic is because I have trepidations about what's going to happen through undermining of the material that's going to be in front of the sheets that are going to be driven down. And the reason is, I'm going to preface this a little bit with what happened many years ago, long before I was alive. In 1938, there was a massive hurricane. It was the worst hurricane that Connecticut had up until that time. And it twisted the railroad tracks that exist here now like spaghetti. And my concern is that I don't know who the design firm was that did the takeoff on this new reparation, but I'm concerned that even if you drive sheets down into the existing surface that they have now, if the material that's in front of that is unstable, that can all wash away, and you can have a repeat performance. It could actually erode it to a point where, through constant erosion, some of this material can actually cause, again, some sort of a problem in the future. And the company that I worked for that did the original boardwalk, the wood part, had done originally the riprap on the side that is part of the hole in the wall. And that riprap is larger stone. So when we were building the original wood part, the process that was defective was the fact that they had used smaller stones that were necessary. And that was the reason why it eroded away and why it kept, through time, falling apart. And yet, if it's done properly, like it has been along the hole in the wall, it's been like that and stayed stable for a very long time. So my concern is, and I just want to articulate it because here's the forum, here everybody gets an opportunity to listen to what's going on. My concern is that I think that some sort of effort